Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about my project Gata Guressi, and kind of taking a walkthrough of the game where I stop along the way and talk about the design and development behind it, and then at the end we're going to hop into the Unity project and showcase a bit closer some of the technical stuff. This game is a sci-fi translation and exploration RPG demo. You play as a merchant character who has come to a different planet to sell a valuable resource called Yelsek, and to sell it, you'll have to talk to characters using a translator to translate a bunch of different fictional languages, and in the process, you'll learn about different fictional planets and cultures. So, with that said, let's get right into it. So first of all, you'll see that we start with an intro cutscene here. I built this project in Unity, so I did this cutscene with the timeline. And so I did camera movement and those sort of little effects. Here is our introduction to the planet of Voen, where this game takes place, and our main character, our protagonist, Kuvol, who is flying this ship. So Kuvol is a trader. He's come from the planet of Guressin, his home planet, to sell as much of his resource called Yelsek as he can. And this is a very valuable resource. People across the system need it, and so you're basically looking to make as much as you can off of selling your shipment. So, as we arrive here, yep, that's the end of the cutscene, and here we are at Kallay Tirridor. And so this is a trade port and a bar. This is sort of an internationally acclaimed, very high-end sort of place, and so, you know, a good place to sell this expensive resource. Alright, and finally here, got one of my biggest shipments yet. And so one of the big parts of this game is that we've got this translation system, right? So here our character's just testing the translator is working. And so in this project, I developed like 10 different languages, not all of them fully fleshed out, but enough that in-game they'll be used in full sentences and kind of mixed and matched as well. So first of all, we can see we're speaking this kind of common tongue here called Hyeska. And so we can actually see that these, the words here, I didn't really just make up random words for it. Things are based on roots and suffixes and that kind of thing, and they're also directly translatable. So you can see here, then pretty clearly means hello, because it translates right into hello twice there. And then we've also got different languages, and so we can use this slider up here to translate a different language, and we're speaking our sort of native tongue, Gureska, which is what's spoken on the planet of Guressin, where we're from. And you can see just by how these two languages look, you'll see this a lot more later on in the game as we go through, but the sort of sounds of different languages are very different. So we've got sort of like a deeper, maybe more guttural sound for Gureska than Hyeska. Cool, so let's continue on. So I did all the 3D models and music and effects and basically everything for this project. This ship was one of my highlights. I put a lot of effort into kind of making it feel lived in. This is a trader ship, so it's kind of big and boxy, and you can see down here we've got all of our Yelsek, which is this lime green stuff, and you can see we got quite a bit to sell. I put a lot of work into kind of the world building and smaller details around here, so you'll see, like, if we climb back up here, we've got a bottle of Ikas Kisk Aska, which we can also click on the stuff just to auto-translate it, and it says Bottle of Joy, which is in Lunska. So it's a drink from the planet of Lunsku, which is nearby here. And our character says, I love this stuff. Perfectly savory and sour at the same time. So he's a big fan of it. And as we go around in the ship here, you'll see there's more bottles all over the place. He clearly likes it a lot. And we've also got like a travel poster for the planet of Lunsku. So any text in this game, you can go up to it and read it just by looking at it, and it's all translatable. So none of this here is in English, nor is any of the in-game text, other than the translations. But you can go up to it, and everything on there, you can go through and understand everything that it says. And this is just kind of advertising Lunsku, trying to get some tourism in. And so we can kind of tell that Kuvol, the protagonist, is a big fan of Lunsku and Lunsku culture, just by having the travel ad up there and the drinks here. But without focusing on that too much, let's continue onward. We've got more details in here, but we'll just continue through for now. So coming out here into the open air, we can see Voen quite a bit better. And this isn't actually like explorable. This isn't a part of the game to like go out and explore stuff, but it definitely gives us a sense of the kind of place we're in. So we got this stony, mossy environment around us. You'll notice these stone pillars with these this grass hanging over the top. This is a very trademark thing for this planet, and you'll see inside as we go on that these pillars are very culturally significant to both the people here and some higher class aesthetics as well. So as we come out of our ship here, we can speak to this guy over here, and here you'll get a better look at the translation system. So Kithel, hi merchant, I'm Kithel, and we say hi Kithel, I'm Kuvel. And so you can kind of start to see that like clicking on every single one of these and like directly translating it kind of gets tedious. And so the idea with that is that if you see words that you already know or that you kind of read, clue in, and get accustomed to, like "gi," for example, we saw that was "I" earlier, then we saw it was "hi" or "hello," and then we can kind of use that context to save ourselves some time. We don't have to go and translate everything because, like I said, everything here directly translates into a meaning. Nothing's just a made-up word. So, well, I guess it's technically all made-up words, but if you get what I mean, it's everything does have a meaning in the game. So here, you want to trade for Yelsek. This is one you'll definitely not be translating for too long because you'll quickly see that Yel is an abbreviation for Yelsek. And since you'll be talking about it a lot, it's kind of a pain to go click it every time, so it kind of pushes you to engage with the language system. Let me see, yes, 1 unit for 2,200 Quartet, or Kithel says. Here's another cool detail. You can see, so 2,200 here translates to 8 FC. That's because, so this fictional universe is called Here, which is the name of this star system that the game and a bunch of other my games take place in. And they count in base 16 rather than base 10. So we translate this into base 10 as well. And then thinking to ourselves, we call him a cheapskate because these Yelsek capsules are worth more currency than what he offered. But we've got a lot to sell, so oh well, we'll take it. And thank you for trading. Thank you. And then we made a sale. So you can see we got 18 more of those capsules to sell, and we got a bit of money from that. And so then that money we can actually spend on things down in the bar. You can actually get a glimpse down inside of there of what's to come. You can also see that we're up here in this higher class trading dock, or ship dock. So that was mentioned to us when we first landed here. And you can see that our ship is kind of out of place here because you can, compared to this ship right here, this is clearly a more sort of like stylish upper class ship when you compare it to our sort of boxy merchant ship over here. We can actually read the text on it, learn a little more about it. So the ship dudes, that's the manufacturer in that year, and the name of the ship, and the owner. And we can also hear Kuvel's thoughts on it. He says, wow, it even has a custom color changing paint job. I'd want one if its engine wasn't so inefficient. So we can actually climb up on here and take a closer look at it. You can see that it's very showy and stylish, but when you look at the actual functionality of the ship, it's probably not very good at whatever it's trying to do. It's got these big extravagant wings and all these blasters all over the place and all that sort of stuff. But when you compare it to our ship, ours is clearly more meant for transporting, right? Because we've got this big boxy shape and the interior here is very spacious. We've got a lot of space to store things, and it's clearly a more sort of practical ship. As opposed to this one, if you look at the actual interior here, there's a lot of like outer show and stuff, but if we actually go up here and look at the size of the cockpit, like you'd get very cramped in there in sort of longer flights when you compare to our ship over there where we've got like a whole bed inside and that kind of thing. So we can kind of infer that this ship is maybe more just for like cruising around, showing off to your friends, that sort of thing, but not actually that functional. Here's the ship's owner, so we can actually speak to them and see what they have to say. Hey merchant, you like my ship? It's a 482 How, one of the best money can buy. And then we say, really? I'm pretty sure there are better. I've heard the engine is an effing pain. And he says, shut up, you say that and you fly a Kunol with wings, which translates to Q. And so we can start to read into this a bit and see, so this is a word from Uesca, right? So when we're speaking to this person, they use a lot of Hieska, which is the common tongue, and so that kind of indicates that they're good at or used to communicating with off-world people a lot, or they travel a lot, and so in this guy's case, probably has a lot of money, is able to travel around a lot. But we can also see, with a little sprinkle of Uesca in there, which is the Ueda native language, we can kind of infer that he's from Ueda as well. So we can say, I won't defend, meaning I won't lie. It's not the best ship, but neither is yours. And then he says, all right, hater, where are you from? Have you seen money before? So now taking a personal attack at us, kind of based on how our ship looks sort of cheap or not that extravagant. We say, I'm Guressi, meaning from the planet of Guresin. And can you align, which is a common phrase sort of meaning like calm down. And he says, oh, I see. You transport slaves for that ship? So Guresin has, this is the big sort of complication of your job as a trader, right? You've got this resource and you need to find people to sell it to. However, Guresin, for the past 300 years or so, has been under the control of this governing group called Opwesi. And they have enslaved a large portion of the population. When they took power, they enslaved a large portion of the population. And everyone who was able to leave, so that would mainly mean like mid to upper class people who own spaceships, who are able to afford to leave, or people who were able to hide, everybody left, right? Nobody wanted to be around for that. And the people who stayed were enslaved, basically, or joined the slaving group. So when you see a Guressi come to your trading port in the high-class trading dock, and they're clearly well off enough to own a spaceship, you will immediately, or for all these people, what they'd immediately think is, oh wait, if you're someone who can afford a spaceship and lives on Guresin and chooses like to be there, you're probably a slaver. You're probably transporting slaves, or you're probably to do with Opwesi, the slaving group, in some way. So at the time of this game, the old leader, Whiffle, who was previously in charge of Opwesi, has been assassinated just months before the events of this game. And his son, Yusol, has taken over. And Yusol has outlawed slavery, so it's kind of disappearing across the planet now. And people are starting to feel safer about Guresin in general, but it's still going to take a while before that sort of feeling of safety and that influx of trade and everything, before that's all able to come, and before Guresin's really able to reintegrate into the system and have everyone's respect again. So for the time being, even though slavery is on its way out there, and even though you're not a slaver yourself, you don't support this, you're kind of seen as, if you're choosing to live there while this act is still taking place, you probably are a slaver. That's the safe assumption for most people. And so, continuing on, we say, F no, I'm a Yelsek merchant, because that is also a profession that would take place on Guresin. There's a lot of access to Yelsek there, and so naturally that's somewhere you'd go to gather it and then export it to other places if you want to trade it. Glimpillanon here says, I'm not aligning with you, slaver, meaning I don't believe you. Go away. Effing Guressi. And you see that's the name of the game. Gata Guressi, that's where the name came from. And then it's explained, yeah, earlier this year, slavery was outlawed in Guresin. Most of us fought against it before then. Regardless, it seems like the stereotype isn't going away anytime soon. So, unfortunately, it'll still be a bit until Guressi are kind of seen as safe to be around and don't kind of make people fear them and stuff. But for the time being, it's still going to kind of impact us immediately when we're trying to trade with people, because a lot of people will hear that we're Guressi and immediately be like, nuh-uh, you're probably a slaver, I don't want to speak with you. So without further ado then, let's head inside Kallay Tirridor, the bar. So one cool thing here, you'll see the fog outside here. As I head inside, the fog kind of fades into a different color. I've got an area loading system I made for this game, initially for optimization to load out parts of the game that aren't in use. But I also used it for things like fading in music, as you can hear there's music in the background now, and changing the color and the thickness of the fog so that each area could kind of have its own unique atmosphere. So in here we've got sort of a deeper, or a more blue kind of color, and less fog in general, and so it feels a bit more open and airy. As we're passing through here, we can actually see there are some banners up on the walls here, and these are the banners of each of the planets. So we can see right here we have the one for Guresin, which is our home planet, and if we read about it, we can see this is our frozen home planet. Yusol, our new leader, outlawed slavery and started a new age for us. Almost no Guressi, besides our former government, supports slavery, but the rest of the system still thinks we're all slavers. And then, yeah, a little more story about that. Here we have the banner of Voen, which is the planet we're on right now. And this will actually probably give us some helpful information, right? Because since we're visiting here, we probably want to know a bit about it. The banner of Voen, the planet I'm on now. Civilization here mostly consists of small local communities united under Jan Keelan, who is the planet's leader. Voen's rock formations inspired the Voeni aesthetic, the definitive style of the upper class. So these rock formations refer to, there are some floating islands and some rock pillars, the ones I was mentioning before. You can see they're represented, they're actually the planet's icon up there. As well as once we get inside, you'll see, so sculpting is a big part of Voeni culture. And you'll see that sculpting these sort of stone pillars, as well as some more sort of like shapes and curves along the general Voeni aesthetic, which is similar to these rock pillars, which all kind of came from just the geology here. Then we've got one more banner here. This one's the one for one scoop. This is the planet that Kuval was a big fan of. Yeah, we can see here. I've always loved the culture. Their tattoos are beautiful, and Ikas Kiskaska, which is the drink we had a bunch of on board, is the best cocktail I've ever had. We won't go through all the banners here, since there are a few more on that side, so we'll just head it onward for now. Here we have a big sculpture of a Janoin, which is a local fauna we can see. Janoin are gargantuan Voeni serpents native to rocky areas like this. They're peaceful and revered by local communities. And you can kind of see for scale. So for example, we've got the stone pillars here once again, kind of for scale this time, showing how large the Janoin is. And you can also, while we're in this area, you can see the sort of the like grandeur of everything. There's a lot of gold. There's a lot of over-the-top water features and these big statues here. You can see this is all kind of showing off how well off this place is, how much of an internationally acclaimed place this is, and why that is we'll get into soon. You'll also see with these statues here, I had a couple of these out front as well. We can inspect them. Wow, this must have been expensive. You normally only see these in big cities like Zepe, which is a different city not featured in this game. It's holding an object embossed with the here symbol, very patriotic. And so that symbol up there is a representation of the sizes of each of the planets, and they're kind of grouped into two regions, which are here Ki and here Sor, and that's the northern and southern, quote-unquote northern and southern regions of the system. The reason they're actually called northern and southern is based on their distance from the suns. So when the Hiri colony, when the people first arrived in this system, they arrived on the planet of Pruden, which is in modern day very socially polarized between the north and south regions, and those are also referred to as Ki and Sor, north and south, because early on a splinter group of people kind of went down south from the north where they landed. And then those two opposing regions kind of created this north and south idea, or as it's what it's called basically, and how it's understood. And so with these different groups of planets here, the north region is the most civilized, and the south region is more sort of exotic and has more, I guess, like closely knit cultures and that sort of thing. And so that's kind of reflected the same way, or that is similar to how Preden's population is split. And so the people in this system have also started to refer to them as here Ki and here Sor, meaning here north and south. So we can actually speak to this guy here, and we'll see a new language. And this, if we translate it, is Voenska, the Voeni local language. And again, we can see sort of what I was talking about, where each language has its own sort of auditory identity. So JM Janoin, Bura Yimwe, Dor Bumahilo Mas. So it's got like a lot of like M's and A's and a sort of like a style to it. It's you can hear this and hear the difference of this language from another language, where there are certain consonants and vowels that are used a lot. There are certain ways of grammatically structuring things. And so this guy says, the beautiful Janoin, have you come here to see it? And we say, not specifically, but it is stunning. Have you seen one before? Yes, it was amazing. I saw mystic, meaning I was enlightened. We can actually read into the language a bit here with the roots, like I was saying. So mystic translates from Jan. And so since this thing over here is called the Janoin, Win means serpent. So the Genoid just directly translates to Mystic Serpent in the Gwenska. Alright, so we've been in kind of the Wabi outer area here. We're about to head inside to Kallay Tirridor's main portion here, and we can read this. We can see it translates to Pinnacle Trade Port, Drink, Music, and Trade. And this is the birthplace of the infamously expensive Bullet Vueni. And judging by all this gold, they've made a fortune from it. So Bullet Vueni is a alcoholic drink that this place made, and basically got very famous, very popular for. The drink is super expensive, and they've made a ton of money off of it because it's shipped all around the system now. And then they've been able to expand from a local bar into basically a massive trade port. We can talk to this guy here, and we recognize him. We said, "No way, is that? It's you! You stole my Yelsek back on Renetto." He says, "You're content. I found it first." And so you can see here, this guy is speaking Reneska. This is the sort of sand planet's language, and it uses a lot of K's and this KH kind of sound. And this is sort of like the Romanized version of, it would be like a mini cough sound, kind of like, so this would be rack, ho oh, ho oh. I don't know. I'm not from Renetto, so I can't do it very well. And then we also see this language over here, Hikiska. And so, if you remember from before, I was mentioning the north and south regions, Hierarchy and Hierasor. Hiki is an abbreviation for Hierarchy, and Ska is that ending suffix that we see on all of the languages. So, this basically is a North Hier language. That's what it would directly translate to. This language is sort of like an artificially made language. This is used for people from Renetto to communicate better with people from Priden, which is the neighboring planet where they trade with a lot, and vice versa, because Reneska is very radically different from a lot of the other languages, which are able to mesh with Hieska a lot better, which is the common tongue. So we get this cool mix here of all these different languages, and it's kind of cool. I'm very happy with how the language system has worked out for this game. You get this cool mix of all these different languages, and you can kind of read into like how well traveled someone is or how much they engage with international affairs and that kind of thing. So what do we say? The effing value, like what's the point? Anyway, so just for a reminder, we were saying this guy stole some Yelsek from us. So this is someone else in the biz who we encountered, and they stole our Yelsek from us in the past, apparently. And we say, "Anyway, I have more Yelsek. You feel like paying this time?" This word Bala, this comes up a lot. This is a Gureska word, just meaning, anyway, whatever, so be it, I don't care, that sort of thing. Just sort of like a dismissive word. And so we asked, "Do you feel like paying this time?" And he says, "Huh, of course, animal." And so this just means friend or dude. Behind the how this is built is pretty interesting. So the word glot in Hieska just means person, he, she, they, it. And when you add this suffix of en or un, en or un, onto any word, it makes it in reference to an animal. And so when you add it onto glot, you're saying animal person, and so it kind of translates to, it makes it sound sort of like stupid or lesser than or barbaric. It's like you're calling someone an animal. However, in this case, when you're casually using that term, it's sort of like making a friendly jab at somebody, like "Hey, you animal," and so it's used kind of like friend or dude or something like that. So this is like he's being friendly now. He's just having friendly speech with us. He says, "For you, I'll trade stupidly," meaning give us a good price. And he'll buy, again, you can see the base 16 to base 10 here, 3,000 Kartet, which is the currency per Yelsek capsule, and 10 total capsules. And that's a lot. That totals to like 30,000. And we say, "Wow, all right, we're flat," meaning we're even. Thank you. And you can see there goes like 10 of them. We just made a great sale with this guy. So, yeah, we can continue on into the actual area now. Spent a long enough out here. And here we are inside the main body area of Kallay Tirridor. First of all, we can see this guy's here. Has some sort of card game going on. We can talk to him once that guy passes through. Or not, wow. Hey, you play Icon Game? A popular card game. I got all the best cards. I got Renetti Pirates. I even got the ultra rare Genuine. And so this is like a card representation of the serpent creature we saw inside. So we can see all of these cost some money to buy. This one costs a ton for the Genuine, so it must be really good. But you can see we got a bunch of money, so we can buy it. You bought my Genuine? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Not really any use for this, so we might as well just leave it there for now. As you can hear over here, we've got some music being played. So we've got a live band. These guys are called Bila Gola, and they're a local Voeni band. So if we speak to the harpist Gillian here, she says, "Leave, I'm performing." And if we jump up on the stage a few times, she'll get kind of upset. Get off the stage! Is your translator broken? Get off the stage. Idiot! And then adding this Wenska suffix here, T, which adds disrespect to a word. So idiot plus extra disrespect. So she's pretty upset. Get off the stage. And I don't care anymore. Bala. So oh well. Sorry, Gillian. So yeah, we could talk to all of these people. Everybody here has dialogue. They all will talk about. These guys will all probably talk more about enjoying the band or whether they like it or not, or that sort of thing. And then depending on the people we talk to, like you can see over here, these guys have a ton of drinks, so they're probably getting super drunk, and that'll affect how the dialogue. You'll have different dialogue with different people. So one technical thing that would be cool to show off here. So you can see I've got a bunch of characters in this space, right? And that is pretty quickly going to tank performance if not handled correctly. So let's use this guy for an example. So I'm looking at this character right here. As I back away, you'll see that character eventually will pop out of existence. Yeah, right there. So as I back up, get a certain distance from that character, it disappears. And as we go further, all of those characters over there will disappear. So this is done to just help manage the load of the amount of characters in here. You can see that there's also characters all around this area. There's a whole seating area of people down there. And so this is really necessary just to make sure that there aren't a million characters on screen at once. And one really big reason this is so necessary is because you might have noticed that there's a lot of characters here, and they all have sort of different parts, but they're all sort of constructed out of the same parts. So like this hat, for example, you see this hat that this character is wearing. If we go look around, there's another character with that hat. There's another one. And that goes for all of the things that make up a character. So these two have the same coat, for example. And that's because the character creator is entirely random. It just comes up with random characters that are made by creating a big collection of parts. And so the issue with that is that in Unity, these parts are called skinned meshes, which means they're objects that can be animated. And so what I'm doing is I'm spawning a bunch of these different parts and then slapping them all together onto the same animated body, right? However, that's a lot less efficient than just having one single mesh, one single skinned mesh that does all the animations, right? So if we look at this character, we can see that there's a hair, a head, a body, an arm, a hand, another hand, and then the legs are all one piece. And so that amounts to, across a lot of characters, that amounts to a lot of skinned meshes that Unity has to handle. And so having them kind of disappear at a distance is pretty necessary just to make sure that we don't have the load of all of these characters times however many parts they're made up of. Another cool thing with the characters is that they've all got randomly generated color palettes. I'm going to jump into Unity a bit later on in this video to kind of showcase this system a bit more, but all of their color palettes, so meaning their skin tone, their eye color, their hair color, clothes, etc., are all generated from gradients. So there's higher chances of certain colors and lower chances of other colors, as well as their clothing texture is randomly selected from some different options. So we can see here we've got more of like a sort of cloth texture. Here we've got more of like a futuristic kind of rectangular texture on there. Yeah. So anyway, we can speak to more characters down here. We can also steal people's drinks. That's my drink. He wasn't a fan of that. And we can drink them. We don't get drunk or anything, but we can drink them all the same. Set that down. So let's speak to Butol here. You're the new Guressi Yelsek merchant? Yeah, have you heard of me? Voila, doesn't matter. And so we can already probably guess that this character is Guressi because they're using so many Gureska words. And he says, I want to talk authority. You've heard of Opwesi, which is the leading authority in Guresin. It's falling from power now, but that's the slaving group. And we say, of course, I live in Guresin. How would you like joining us as a slaver? You would be high class, own any ship you want. All we ask is your exclusive Yelsek trade. So clearly this guy is still affiliated with the group, even though they're falling from power. They're still around to some extent. And we say, no, you effing Rillet, which is a rat-like creature from the planet of Preden. So just calling him a rat, basically. I thought we got rid of you animals. And so here you can see, you remember before we were called glutton as a sort of friendly, joking term. Here we definitely don't mean it like that. We mean it as you are barbaric or animalistic. And we say, Hewitt's shame on you. And so Hewitt is the god of neighborship, teamwork, that sort of thing. Very focused on equality and all that. And he's very prevalent on this planet and the nearby planets. So he'll be mentioned a fair bit. And he says, so be it. Goodbye. So he's not going to hire us today. Let's see. So we've got, quite a few characters down here. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through and talk to too many of them. But I do want to show off this bar area here. You can see that I've put a lot of detail into things like the pipes up here. These are actually for transporting the Voleni around, which is the drink this place is known for. We've got the big banners across the top. And then we've got multiple bars over here. We've got people sitting down. We can take a seat and join them and speak to some of them. Evil Guressi. Follow Hewitt's values, which is just kind of a southern saying like you need help, or God bless you would be kind of the equivalent in the U.S. Or I don't know if it's said outside the U.S. I think it's mainly said in the U.S. I don't trust you animals. There's a reason everyone avoids you. So this person is definitely from the south somewhere, but probably only really travels around the south based on how much they're using Hisorska, which is like the kind of communal, artificial language for communicating with other people from the south. And then we say, effing Volenin, meaning Voleni, idiot. Again, we're using that animal suffix on the end there to add that sort of stupidity, that insult to it. I'm not a slaver. Regardless, Usul, which is the new leader of the planet, has outlawed slavery. Listen to off-world news before you hold those beliefs. So there's a stereotype about characters from the southern planets being sort of out of touch with off-world news, especially here on Voen. And so we could definitely read in a bit that this person is probably a local on Voen. Someone who gets around a lot, but definitely doesn't listen to the news very much because it has been quite a while since slavery has been outlawed on Guressin. Anyway, we can also see that I made these posters in Photoshop. I'm really proud of these. There are some scattered around. A lot of them use some pre-existing concept art I had for other games, and other ones like this I just did with like a screenshot over at the bar there where they got the team together. And so this is a hiring advert. And up here it's I won't read the whole thing in the interest of time, but it says we need workers or join our team. Come here and work at our cool bar and serve our famous drink. And then they got their little logo down at the bottom there. One really big thing you can see with this poster is, and that's something I'd like to talk about in general, is the sort of consistent style here. I really wanted the whole like establishment to feel very consistent. And so there's ways I did that, like for example, this pattern, which I'm sure you've seen everywhere, this sort of geometric pattern. This is actually just like a pixel art texture. This is probably like 8 by 16 pixels big or something like that. But this is used all over the place, not out of laziness, I promise, but just to build a kind of cohesive sense of how this place looks. And then we've also got some sort of gold diamonds around. You'll see these in the pipes. You'll see them in the chains on these lanterns here, all over the place. Yeah, we've got the blue LED lights carried throughout. And then also, anytime you see the big signs here, they've always got this style. So like this one says, travel safe, thanks for visiting. This is what you read on your way out. But as we travel over here to the other side, you can see this is the Kallay Tirridor logo. And we go back inside. Oh, there's another one of those ads actually. And you can see, well, I'll go into a lighter area. You can see that down at the bottom here, it's got the same logo on it. It's got that same pattern in the background too. So overall, I just tried really hard to make a consistent sense of style for this place. And as for why the style is what it is, why it looks the way it looks, I was very much trying to create sort of like a sci-fi atmosphere, make it feel very like very geometric and futuristic and all that sort of thing. But I was also very conscious of the color scheme. So I think with a lot of sci-fi stuff, one example that pops to mind is like Star Wars, the Millennium Falcon. It's all very like gray and sort of cold and doesn't feel very lived in, feels very like metallic. And I wanted to keep metal and metal ornamentation and all that sort of thing. But I also wanted to be sure that the color scheme and the arrangement of things still felt very lived in and homey and welcoming and warm. So I tried to use a lot of warm colors. I used this red wherever I could for this sort of the cloths and the that sort of thing. Lots of gold ornamentation on things, and one big influence for the color scheme for the place actually was the game Prey. It's the first area of the game in the spaceship it takes, or space station it takes place on, called Talos 1, has this lobby area, and it's all very warm colors, but it's very clearly still futuristic. I'll put some images on screen now so you can see what I mean. It's got this sort of like these warm colors everywhere. It feels very inviting, kind of Art Deco, but it still feels very much sci-fi. You don't feel like a sort of like a lot of sci-fi I feel has these sort of like white, gray, like, and then maybe like orange, neon orange or neon blue kind of color scheme going on, and it makes it feel very clean and sleek, but not very inviting. And so I wanted to make sure this place still felt very much like, you know, humans are here. This is still a place that you would go to have fun and enjoy. And you can see that especially in this middle area here. I wanted to hang these big cloth things all around just for ornamentation, but all sort of like haphazardly strewn about and nothing too perfectly in place, while still keeping that sort of geometric texture on and the sort of gold finish on everything. We can also, back to the gameplay side of things, we can read all of this stuff, we can take any of these drinks. Let's see if we can find our character's favorite drink. Kiskaska? Oh no, that's a bottle of it. Let's see. Well, maybe not any here, but we can definitely cash in on the Bullet 20 here, which is the most expensive drink sold here. Delicious. And then there's also a bunch of things you can inspect around here. So like I said before, anything with text on it you can read about to kind of learn more about the world. But we've got things like the pipes here you can inspect. You can read that. You can inspect like the pistons and the like the statues and all sorts of things like that to kind of learn more about the space. So even though the goal of the game on paper is to sell all of your Yelsec, really that's more of a vehicle for getting you talking to people and learning about the world you're in. Because there's no indicators of who you're going to talk to, who that you're talking to is going to buy Yelsec from you or anything like that. It's entirely up to you to go find those people. But in the process, you're gonna have to talk to a lot of people, and so the dialogue is kind of the main feature of the game, where you're going around, you're learning the protagonist's thoughts about things, but also hearing from other people, learning about different places in the world. And if you've spoken to enough people, by the time you go back to your ship and leave, you'll have a pretty good understanding of the system as a whole, which was my main goal with this project, to kind of build that immersion and kind of really make it feel like, even though the whole game only takes place in this bar here, really make it feel like there's a whole world out there externally from this place, and that people have just come to visit. Another thing that helps that out a lot, and one thing I'll mention while I'm down here, is that the universe that this game is set in is also shared across many of my projects. So I have a VR sand surfing and grappling game called Sandboard, and it's set in the same universe here on the desert planet Reneto, which is, if you remember the guy out in front who we were saying stole our stuff earlier, that's where he's from. And you can see here we've got a sandboard, we can inspect it. It says it's the most affordable way to get around Reneto. There's also a pretty popular recreational sand surfing scene. And then we can go over here, kind of an Easter egg, we can talk to this sandboarder here. And he says Calm Wall, which is like a friendly greeting. Wall is sort of a term for like friend or buddy, but sort of in a more like reliable sense rather than jabbing at somebody. And he says, "You into sandboarding?" We can say, "I've only done it once. It was tough. It was work." "No, man, it's so fun. You got to visit Arver, which is where sandboard is set. Even a lame guy like you would enjoy it." "I can't afford a trip to Reneto just for recreational sandboarding, but maybe I can find a free sandboarding game or something." Wink, wink. I'll leave a link in the description down below to play Sandboard if you'd like to, as well as a link to this game and also the document for the whole here system if you're interested in that kind of thing. It's this big world building document. I think it's sitting at around 150 pages right now, and it's got every concrete detail about the universe basically. And so that'll be things about this game, things about Sandboard, and other games and projects that are set in the same universe. While we're down here, we can speak to this person over here, see what they have to say. Dolkor Lunjon. So this language, right off the bat, is unlike anything we've seen so far, right? So this is, what is this? Urska. And so Urska is spoken by the Ursi, the people of Ursin, which is a sort of hot magma planet. And it's a very entrepreneurial, very hardworking, but also very stuck in place kind of planet. So people there stay put and work very hard and make a lot of money. It attracts a lot of people for the entrepreneurial reasons, though the language used there is so incompatible with Hyeska and all of the other languages, because you can see this kind of structure it has. It's sort of each of these single syllable words are all chained together and very efficiently and quickly convey a meaning. But it doesn't fit in with Hyeska very well or any of the other languages because it's all segmented like this. And so that makes it very hard for them, especially because they usually, the Ursi, stay on Ursin and don't leave, or people who go to Ursin just stay there. Those two things kind of combine together to make it very tough for the Ursi to communicate with other planets. And they're often they're kind of seen as like stupid or unaware because they have so much trouble communicating that they're seen as kind of like withdrawn from the rest of the system and not very well traveled. So anyway, we can continue talking. "Hi, are you a merchant?" And we say, "Yes, I'm selling Yelsek. Are you interested?" And they say, "Oh, sorry, I had thought you were Ursi," which is because they were speaking Urska, assuming we were Ursi. "I'm as stupid as my brother, and he doesn't even speak Hyeska." And that's in reference to another character that we'll go pay a visit to on our way outside, who's hanging out by the banners and also has trouble communicating. "It doesn't matter. It's fine. I have a translator. Do you want to trade though?" "I hope my brother is doing okay. He's really stupid." "I'm sure he's doing very well. Now can I interest you in some Yelsek?" "Yeah, I hope he is. So how are you?" So clearly there's some language barriers here, right? We're having trouble getting across what we mean. And our character says, "This is getting ridiculous. I'm fine. Everyone's fine. Do you want to trade or not?" "Oh, the Yelsek. Yeah, one for 2,200, which is kind of a low price if we recall before that the going rate was 2,400. And I don't care anymore. Just make the sale and get it over with. Sure, thank you. Goodbye." So this, oh, I forgot I was sitting down. This is supposed to reflect as well that our character is not a silent protagonist by any means. Kuvul, I very much wanted to have his own thoughts and opinions on things, and some of those are admirable and respectable, but some of them are also less great traits, like being impatient with people who he has trouble communicating with. And I think putting these kind of like prejudices and issues and those sort of things into characters really makes them feel a lot more real, especially given some of the other conversations that you'll have around here, which I won't spoil all of, and feel free to go play the game and check them out for yourself. Though I will speak to this character here, who has some good, on that topic is good to speak to. We say, "Hi, I'm Kuvul. Do you want to trade for a Yelsek?" So Gibi, which is this character's name, translates into I because this language, Sorpri, does not have pronouns. So the Sorpri language, this comes from Prideska, which is the language of Priden, and let's see if I can find it. Yeah. And it's actually the original language for all of here. If you remember earlier, I was saying that Priden has kind of split into a northern and southern region, Ki and Sor. And so Prideska is spoken by the northern region, which is sort of the main region or the main language. And that group that went south has their own language, which is Prideska, but for Sor. So Sor Prideska. And then that gets abbreviated into Sorpri, which is the name of the language. So I am not buying Yelsek. You are Guressi, and again we can see Gibi is using our name, Kuvol, because there aren't pronouns. You always refer to someone by their name. Yeah, we are. Are you a slaver? And then we say, no, slavery was outlawed, Holy Hewitt, which just means, like, thank God. And you can see Kuvol is pretty sick and tired of being asked that. And here's a good point from Gibi. You and all Guressi, you care more about your image than the actual slaves. And so this is true, right? Like, throughout the conversations we've had so far, Kuvol has been very upset about being called a slaver, and very against the idea of it. But we haven't seen anything from him actually about helping the slaves or making any impact or difference. So it kind of shows you he's sort of he's maybe not the most like politically active or really like good-willed outside of his own well-being. And he says, whatever, goodbye. He's caught off guard by that. So as a trader who's coming here to sell this resource, basically, Kuvol is really more upset with the effect that the culture of Guressin has on his sales, rather than the actual slaves and the act of enslaving and everything, which just tells you a lot more about like who he is as a person. And I like I was saying before, I really wanted to put these kind of flaws into the character to make them feel more real and build them up a bit. We can steal that drink to have a drink. We can see over here there's a card game being played, so we can speak to these characters. Jay Kano says, can you play against this guy for me? He's too Gil skilled. Oh, good luck, or more luck. We can see here again that cough noise is being used. This is sort of like a global thing for kind of just like oh or ah or aha or sort of like a general noise of acknowledgement, I guess. That we can speak to. How rude! Wow. We can speak to Baradochi here, who says, I played Genuine. If we remember from before, that's that serpent creature who we bought that card for, which was very expensive, and attacked for 8 damage. So this guy is probably pretty good at this game, and spends maybe a bit too much money on it. Let's see what this character has to say. I don't understand this game. And so again, here we are in Lunska, and this language is another one like Urska, which is this language, the one where it was all single syllable words chained together by hyphens. This language uses a lot of the same sounds, and the idea with it is that these people are very they're also very separate from the rest of the system, and they have a very culturally rich planet, and that's led to a lot of tourism and kind of appropriation from the rest of the planet, which has led them to be very like withdrawn and reclusive. And their language reflects that by how inaccessible to speak it is, or not to speak, more to understand. So if I say this out loud, ki os uskia su tukas, if you're listening to that, it sounds like I just said like the same thing over and over again. It's very hard to differentiate words because they're all so similar and using so many of the same sounds. However, it does build a very recognizable sound for the people. And I'm really personally happy with how it sounds in general. I think it's pretty cool. We got a boxing match going on over here. We can speak to this guy, see what he has to say, the referee. It's an even fight. Actually, they've been fighting for a while now. And yeah, they'll keep fighting forever. They never stop. If we hop out here, it seems like these guys are pretty invested. We can speak to Telano. My money's on Halan. I hope he wins. I bet 4 Yelsek capsules on him. Oh, you want Yelsek? I trade it. Holy you, which means kind of like, you saved me. Can I trade for 4? Sure, we'll trade at the standard rate of 2,400. Sounds good, thank you. Sweet, so we just sold 4 more, and we've only got 3 capsules left, so we're doing pretty good. We can also see over here, we've got this painting up on the wall here. I won't inspect this for the sake of time, but you can see this was actually concept art for a different game, and then I sort of adapted it and reworked it a bit, so I'm really happy with how the texture of this turned out. You can see it's like pixel art, but then I went in and added this sort of like painted over kind of canvasy texture to it, added a little signature at the bottom from the artist and the year and the name of the painting. And overall, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I'm pretty happy with it. These are the floating an artistic representation of the floating islands, which you can see up in the sky around us here on Voen. A cool detail about the floating islands, actually, is if I look at one of them, I'll look at that one. If you look where my cursor is, you can see the island is actually moving. So all of those floating islands actually float up and down at varying speeds. So just a cool little effect if you're looking close at it. You can also see up in the sky there, so I didn't mention this as much before, and I'll point it out more as we get back to our ship, but you can see there are some other planets up in the sky there. This is the planet of Wunsku, which you might recall this character was speaking the language from, and that's where this character is from. And over there is Guressi, the planet we came from. And you'll actually see this represented, so I think there's a statue, sculpture down here actually. Yeah, so here is, we can read or inspect this sculpture, and it says, it's a sculpture of Voen's iconic stone pillars and the surrounding planets. Wunsku, which we pointed out there, Dorbis, which is a moon of Wunsku, and Guressi, which is up here where we came from. Sculpting is a cornerstone of Voen's cultural identity. I wonder if this is made of solid gold or just gold coated. I don't know. But what's cool about this is that I consistently placed all of the planets across all of the representations of them, so they're always physically accurate wherever you see them. So from here we can see that we're kind of able to see both of those from here. You can see that this has been kind of done from a position on the planet where they were able to see both of them up in the sky. And as we continue through, we might see more representations of that, especially up on our ship, which has a little planetary chart thing, which we'll see later. Here's another one, actually. So here we have a trade route map, and if we inspect it, it says, looks like the system's primary trade routes. The artist definitely took some creative liberties with how close together the planets are, though. So if we look closer at this, we can see where we are and where other things are. We can see right now we're here on the planet of Voen at Kallay Tirridor, right there. We can see Wunsku and Dorbis up in the sky, and we can also see Guressi where we came from. We can see other planets too, so Preden, you remember, is the planet I mentioned is split into the southern and northern region, Sor and Key. We can see Renetto over here, Arver, that's where the game's sandboard is set. Up here we've got Ursin, which I was saying is the kind of industrial, entrepreneurial planet. And then over here we also have Ueda, which I haven't mentioned too much, but is a water planet and has the system's capital city, Gwenador. And my other game, Conductor, is actually set here on Gwenador, or in Gwenador. Anyway, we can head back upstairs now, and so we haven't been up here yet. And this is the more sort of upscale bar. You can actually see, if you look close, that the fog has just increased a bit as we came up here. So again, that's that area loading kind of thing. Another thing about the area loading system is that while we're up here, everything on the floor down below us, that's all been loaded out now. And then if we approach the balcony here and take a peek, it all comes back just for when we peek at it. If we go back down here and go underneath here, now all of that stuff up there has been loaded out. So that just helps out a lot with performance. So yeah, returning up here to take a look around, you can see this bar has some interesting stuff going on. So we've got this conveyor belt here that's taking the drinks along. I did this with Unity's splines package, which is just a built-in natural one. Not natural, just one of the default ones. And these just kind of go around and follow the conveyor belt, and you can grab any of these off and just purchase them for a bit of money, have a drink. And you can speak to the characters around here too, and they'll have things to say about it. We can talk to this guy. This is my favorite bar in here, Sor. I'm waiting for my favorite drink to come any moment now. The way I did this mesh, this object of the bar, is I also used splines in Blender, and what I did is I did a general shape of how the bar should look. I made a profile of how I'll head downstairs real quick to show you quickly. So I took the profile, the side profile of one of those downstairs bars. We can just jump off the railing here. Yippee! And so yeah, over here you can see this is the same bar. It's got that sort of jutting out. It's got the little details underneath and then juts out and has the flat countertop and is the same on the other side. So if we go back upstairs to there and check it out again, we'll see that I took that side profile and then stretched it around the spline, and then also added the indent for the conveyor belt. So we've also got these cool what do you call chandeliers up here, and we've also got the rotating signs up here, which I'm very happy with. These bullet voiny signs, and so this is just really rubbing in that this is the whole bullet voiny place. If you've come from across the system, you want to be up at this bar. This is where you get your bullet voiny and have a good time. This guy seems a little upset. Hey man, hey, you doing okay? Man, it's just these drunk guys. They drink so effing much and never shut up. My coworkers downstairs think I'm lucky for getting to work at the upscale bar. And he's referring to, we've got like a guy over here just dancing around on the table. We've got other sort of activities going on. We've got some guys over here who are just absolutely wasted and have dropped drinks all over the place. But I'll let you see all that stuff if you play the game for yourself. What else do I want to talk about up here? We've got these pistons, which logistically don't really make too much sense. Don't look at them too hard. They're just for the kind of set dressing. And we've also got these characters that sort of idly walk around. These guys don't have dialogue or anything like that, since I thought it would be kind of annoying to be trying to find one of these characters and find a specific dialogue with somebody. So they're just sort of generic characters that walk around and again kind of build the general sense of people moving around and stuff. If nobody was walking or anything, it would be very kind of strange that that everybody's just kind of stood in one place or not moving. So with that, we can speak to this guy over here, who's actually got an empty yell set capsule, which is a good indicator that he might need some help. Let's see. So he's upset. You okay? No, my ship's engine is broken. I'm unable to leave. It needs Yelsec. It's a new type of android engine or something. Luck is with you. I sell Yelsec. Holy Teo, which is another god. What's your price per unit? Teo, he's only, and so this is us thinking to ourselves, he's only followed by the Holder affiliation, which isn't, they're not explained much in this game, but they're sort of an antagonistic affiliation, which are a lot more prominent in other games. And they profited from Guresi's slavery, so I don't feel bad making some easy money here, kind of exploiting this guy, because, I mean, he's exploited our people before. Because you can't leave, I'll be kind. 3,300 per Yelset capsule. And you remember, these go for 2,400, so that's a pretty steep price. 3,300, that seems really expensive, but alright, I need 3. Great, lucky flying. And that was the last of our Yelsec we had to sell, so that's all of it sold, and I'll return to my ship when I'm ready to leave. So, again, the game could have just ended there, but since this game really isn't so much about actually selling the stuff as it is sort of being immersed in the space and learning about the culture and stuff, I didn't want to kick people out as soon as they just happened to sell everything. So you get the chance to take a walk back out to the ship and then fly away. And the whole sort of structure of the game is meant to feel like sort of like a slice of a larger RPG, right? Because you come in on your ship in a cutscene, you see that you're flying from this planet, you come in, you do all this, and then we'll see in the outro cutscene as well that we're flying back home to our original planet. Another cool thing, more of a technical thing, is that you can see when I look at characters, they actually look back at me. So this is done with inverse kinematics. Each one of these characters has, in front of their face, they have a little ball. You can't see, it's invisible, and they're always looking at it. And if I look at this character, that ball moves to the position of my camera. And so as I move around, this character will continue to look at me. However, there are other characters who are more intently focused on a task. Get this thing out of here. Who are more intently focused on a task or don't look at you right away because they might be preoccupied. For example, this character here is really intently looking at this this design, so we can see what they have to say. I see this pattern everywhere. I hate it. Yeah, unfortunate. You can see with the detailing I did here too. I put a lot of work into just making the walls not feel too bare or anything. I put in these big vents up here, so this whole area feels like there's a lot of processing being done here or something like that. Up on the walls, we've got all sorts of details too. There's a bunch of things we can inspect or grab or read about. And we've also got banners up here as well for the different regions of here. So this banner here, again, you'll recognize that symbol from the statues. That's the sort of unity symbol of all of the planets together based on their sizes. Oh, dude, get out, someone will see you. This character just said to me. If we go out here, we can see there's a little note on this railing here, and it says, reserved for our planet's leader, Jan Keelan. So it's a whole reserved area, so I'm probably not meant to go in there. This character says, man, I really want to sit in that VIP section. Oh well. So yeah, I've tried to detail everything a lot to make it feel kind of sci-fi, but also lived in, and lots of detailing everywhere. It's just so it feels not barren or anything like that. I actually originally submitted this project for a 3D modeling module on my university course, but then I went in and I touched it up a bit afterwards with like the lighting and the characters walking around, for example, and just more details all over the place. So with that, I think we're about ready to head outside. There is one more thing I actually wanted to speak about, which is the dialogue system. And so how this works, if we go speak to one of these characters, so like I love visiting Bowen. It's good to get away from my stupid effing boyfriend. Okay, so for example, in this dialogue here, dialogue is made up of a lot of different parts. So this is going to be a technical explanation of how it works. So each one of these sort of collections of words with a translation is called a phrase. And a phrase is all one language and has one translation. So, Gi Pari Naite, I love visiting. This is all one phrase. Voen, that's all one phrase. And also, if there's any additional like context, it'll be added down there as part of the phrase. So then, all of those phrases are collected together into this whole dialogue here. So this is called a dialogue, and a dialogue is spoken by one of the characters. It can be spoken by the character who you're speaking to. It can be spoken by you, or you can think it to yourself. And then finally, there are conversations, which hold a collection of dialogues, and this is for things like when you speak to characters. For example, when we were speaking to this guy over here, see how it's multiple dialogues that we pass through as we go through. And so these are all stored in a conversation, or what's called a conversation. And then characters can store multiple conversations as well, and it'll iterate through them as you progress. Just by speaking to them multiple times, I mean. So if we spoke to this character again, thanks, I guess. We can't trade with him again because we already did. Cool, so with that all pretty much explained, I think we'll just head on back towards our ship. We can see the lighting here is pretty drastically different between what comes in through the window here and then the areas back here. I put a lot of work into the lighting to make sure everything looked good, reflected properly, and especially with the characters. So basically, all of the lighting is baked in this general area, which means it's all pre-calculated before the game is shipped to you. And so it's all kind of going to stay the same. Nothing will change. Like this shadow right here will not go away or anything like that. However, you can't bake lighting on moving things. So like for the characters who are animated and look around and that sort of thing, or for moving parts, you can't bake the lighting onto them and have it look the same, because then the lighting wouldn't move, right? When they move. So instead you have to use something called light probes. And it took me a long while to figure out how to do that properly, but I did figure it out in the end. And it was an absolute struggle to get these characters looking proper, like as if they're in the environment just like everything else. There was a long while where they were either like unlit, like way too dark, or they were way too bright. I have a funny video that I'll insert here of one of the characters at the upstairs bar, looking very spooky. But with that, I think I'll leave the rest of the details here for you to explore for yourself when you play the game. And we'll head back out to our ship to leave. This tile texture on the ground I'm pretty happy with too. It looks pretty drastically different depending on the angle you're looking at it from. It's very reflective in some spots. And it's also got that diamond I was talking about again. And you'll see like here's more of those diamonds. And the railing here uses that trademark kind of pattern. This railing was actually the first model I made for the game. what'll be cool actually, I'll show on screen right now a picture of some of my initial sketches for this game, and you'll see that this railing was right on there, this railing design, and that was one of my first things I made for the project. We can also speak to this guy right here. So you might remember that earlier we ran into somebody from Ursin who was talking about their brother, and we can see here in front of the banner of Ursin we've got this guy who says Ken lun net gren lun dwon lun von here, which means these banners are beautiful. I'm proud to be a part of here. A cool detail here is that in Urska, you pluralize a word just by saying it twice. So Ken translates to a banner or an icon or like a representation of something. In this case, like the representations of the planets. And so Ken means banners, plural. Yes, we're very lucky to be able to live here. No speak Hieska, no translator, sorry. I'm shocked you made it across the system without a translator or knowing conversational Hieska. And so Kugel says this because it's, I think, like 3 planets you have to hop to get from Ursin to Voen, where we are now. So probably with the help of his sibling, he was able to get here. But you definitely need to know some Hieska to be able to get around properly. Or not, in that guy's case. And then there are some more banners here. You can learn more stuff about the planets. But I think for now, we'll just head back outside. And as we go out, you can see again that sort of fog change I was talking about. You'll see it kind of fades in and it becomes much foggier and sort of mistier outside is the idea. So we can now head up to our ship and we can set off now that we've sold all of our Hilsek. Sweet, so that's the game. I think now I'll hop over to Unity and showcase some of the more technical stuff in the project. All right, so here we are in Unity. I apologize, this part might be a little laggy just because we're running the project and recording at the same time. So here we are. We can see the full environment here and everything. And so I'm gonna start with taking a quick little look around. You can see some angles of things that you can't see in the game. And so I think, so you can see by default, none of the characters are actually in here. Instead, if I enable the gizmos for them, I think, there we go, we'll get all kinds of icons. And everywhere you see one of these little play button looking things on the ground, that's where a character will spawn. So at the start of the game, characters are generated using the character generator, or the character creation manager. So if I go up to here and I hop over to the inspector so we can take a better look at this thing, you can see this is the central sort of system that all characters are created from. And the thing I'm proudest of about this system is this gradient setup up here. So for all of the characters, I can easily control how all of them will be generated from these ranges right here. And so you can see, like, for the skin tones, I've got different points set along the way here where I can determine how common each one will be. Same with like the eye colors, so you can set certain ones to be more common or rare. You'll see like brown eyes are more common. And this goes for everything to like right down to like the glowy whites on some of the ornamentation on people's clothing. The metal, which can be anywhere from like silver to a dark sort of darker color, or like rose gold maybe, or just actual gold, or bronze. And so this just allows for a lot of different easy, quick variation in things. If I'm seeing the color too much, I can just go in here really quickly and easily and change it out. We've also got settings here for like the minimum and maximum stature. So this will scale the whole character by a certain size. And this is super useful just for having characters really get varied, you know what I mean? I'll actually show you. So what I did during development, I had a little a little battalion of characters up here. All right, so I've just loaded in what I call here the stress test battalion. I was initially using these guys just to check the performance of everything, but I've also now started using them to see how the characters are varied. And you can really see the variation in them. There's definitely, they could definitely use some more parts, but I'm pretty proud of what I was able to get with the amount of parts I made. And especially the sort of consistent style across them, which really like builds the style of the game. You can see how the stature helps out too. If I look closer at some of these guys, you'll see some are shorter and some are taller, and it really breaks them up pretty well. And also the range of colors for the clothing and the leather, like in the shoes and some jackets, the hair color, the skin tone, it all helps to really diversify the characters. But we've also got the dialogue character script right here. And so this contains all of the information about the conversations this character can have. So we've got like the name of the character. We can set if this is a dialogue, which is like when you're speaking to someone, if it's something like a seat. So really this is, you can inspect all kinds of things and read about them. And there's different types of interactions which are managed by this. So for example, if you were going to read something with text on it, this would be a readable, and then the prompt would say read instead of talk. Or if it's a grabbable, it would say grab, or something like that. And then some dialogue would appear when you pick up the item. For example, if you're taking a cup from behind the counter, this is something you can actually do in game. The bartender will be upset with you because it's like, hey, why are you stealing that? I need that. And so you can set those up directly in the objects that you're grabbing. So as for the actual conversations here, you can see we have an array up at the top. This is all entirely doable through the inspector, which was one of my big goals with this system, to make it very easy to work with. You can see each of these conversations that it has. First of all, we have the first conversation here. We can list whether you get to sell any Yelsec in this conversation, and if so, what the rate is that you're getting paid for each one you sell. We've also got a conversation ID here, which can be helpful for things like branching narratives, although I never actually got to use that in the end. And then for each one of these dialogues, we then can add as many as we want. Each one of these we can say whether it's the character saying it, the player, or the player thinking it's themselves. And we can put in the phrase. So when the player thinks of themselves, they just think in English. They don't have any translation involved. But when they're speaking, or when the other character is speaking, it's spoken in a language. And so we can see right here, we have our language for this dialogue set to Hieska, right? We can go in and set this to any of the languages. If we set it to leave it as unset, it'll just take either the player's default language, which would be Hieska, or the character we're speaking to's native language. So for example, this character speaks in Reneska, so if we don't set the language, it'll automatically use Reneska just because that's the character's native language, and that saves some time. Underneath, we can say the actual phrase in that language, we can say what it translates to, and then we can also add some optional context. So if this translates literally to something that doesn't make a lot of sense in English, we can add some additional context underneath. Or if it's something like, for example, when the god Hewitt was mentioned, that's not something we're going to naturally know, and so we can add a little blurb underneath to make sure that the player understands what that is. You can also set a dialogue on first grab. So for these ones, there's no dialogue set, but for this one right here, we've got this one called Bought Janwin card. And so this is one really nice thing about the dialogue system. It can be totally abstract from any actual characters, and you can just put in the dialogue you want to separately. So this character that would be standing right here that would sell you the card isn't actually related to this dialogue at all. This is a separate dialogue that will be fired off when you purchase the really expensive card here. And then it'll say, you bought my genuine, thank you, thank you, thank you. But again, totally separate from the actual character itself, so that you can have sort of interactions like that built right in, which is really nice. Same goes for these glasses behind the counter. When you steal these, it'll fire off a conversation called stole bar glass, and just someone named bartender will say, "Oh, hello, I need that," but it's not actually this bartender or the bartender's over here or any of those. It's just a dialogue named bartender, and it's kind of nice in that you can just kind of spam those glasses anywhere you want now. I've got more up here too, and I don't have to worry about unique dialogue for every single one of them. I can always just reuse that same generic refirable dialogue. We also have a character creator script. This isn't really one that you go in and edit too much. It just sits there and it basically puts together the character's body from a bunch of different pieces in collaboration with, up here, the character creation manager. So here it stores references to all those different pieces and it sticks them all onto the same mesh. We can also have this randomly generate box ticked, which it is for basically every character in the game, and then it'll just come up with a random body at runtime. For characters who can walk around, we also have this character navigation script, and this works with the nav mesh agent, which you would enable on characters who are walking around. And you can just set how frequently they walk and that sort of thing in here pretty easily. They store all the areas they can go to. So for example, someone up at the ship dock is not going to randomly pick a point from down in floor 0 because they would have to walk all the way down there. And it's much simpler and easier to understand for the player and me and everyone if they just kind of idly walk around in the space that they're already in. Now I just got a good angle here between these two different sections. You can see the camera over on the right is in this wall over here, looking between the two. And you can see the area I'm in right now has everything loaded in and we can see it all. But when I open this door, the other side gets loaded in and then we can walk over there and it'll all be there. And then if we wait a second for the door to close, all of that is loaded out. And so that really helps out with performance. Here's another really good example of this. So I've put the camera over in between these two areas so that you can see the top and the bottom, right? As I walk over here, you'll see that nothing upstairs is loaded, but as I get closer, boom, there it all is. And then I can go upstairs, and then once I'm up in that area and unable to see down below me anymore, as we head in, there we go. Now everything down there has loaded out except for what I can see from the balcony. Heading over here to the upstairs bar, we can see that we actually don't have any of the drinks spawned yet. Those are spawned in at runtime. We see this conveyor belt material is in fact already going, and that's just because it's a panning material, nothing too fancy. But we can also see that we have this this line along the whole bar here, and this is a spline, which basically the drinks, once they're spawned onto here, they will attach onto the spline and then they'll move along it. And then once you grab them off, they'll detach from the spline, they'll leave all of that behind, and then they'll just snap to your hand. As we head back outside here, I'm gonna go run over and run through the outro cutscene because there's some really interesting stuff to show there. Specifically in the end scene where you're flying through space back towards your home planet. So we're here in the final outro cutscene, and I actually wanted to pause this and show you how this is done. So this is actually, that planet is not far away at all. That's just a big sphere that's over here, and you just can't really tell because of the angle. We're inside of this big inverted sphere here, and you can actually see there's a couple layers to it, and this is just floating just down here underneath the, there's the UI, and underneath the main level up there. And if we unpause the game again and hop back to the scene view, you'll see the camera is flying around here. And in the distance, here's the planet that we're flying towards. And you'll see over time, this is slowly growing. And so this is faking the appearance that we're getting nearer to it. But our ship doesn't actually move at all in this entire cutscene. And so that sphere over there just grows in size and it looks like we're getting nearer to it. Another really cool thing here is these stars. So I did this with just a noise texture, and how these stars work, they just basically just pan back and forth in a circle around, and it makes it look like they're passing by. From the angle here, you can kind of see that if our camera moves around a bit, they look like they're twinkling. It's easier to see in the game, actually. So once we get past this part of the game, you'll see that as our camera moves around, there's a special effect that makes them kind of look twinkling. And how that's done is that there's two noise textures overlaying each other, and whenever one of the white pixels from one noise texture overlaps another one, it makes a little sparkle effect. And so it creates these infrequent little sparkles on screen. Here's a very cool behind the scenes look at something. So the skybox in the game is rendered just as a skybox. It's just a big cube that surrounds the game at all times, and it looks like the sky. But how I did this with the planets in the background, these are actually transparent spheres. So I went into a different scene here and I rendered this all out with a reflection probe, and then that renders it to a six-sided, basically a cube, and then you can go and apply that to your skybox afterwards. And so you can see here, these planets, to get this kind of silhouette look and make it look like the clouds in the background are actually in front of it, I just made them transparent. And so in the distance, now they kind of look like they're lit by the sun off in the distance. But that they kind of fade away into the darkness of space, even though really they're just see-through. And it's actually, these clouds in the background are actually behind it. This cloud shader is very cool. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I did this with a noise. Let's see if I can find it. All right, so I've just pulled up the shader graph here for it. So how this is done is with Voronoi noise. I think that's how you say it. And it's basically being stretched and masked, so it's only on the top half of the sphere, so there's no clouds down below there. And it uses that Voronoi noise to go between this gradient of what's essentially the sky color, the atmosphere color, and the clouds. And then as we get towards the top of the sphere, because of how the UVs are laid out, it'll kind of stretch them along this horizontal axis so that they look really long and wispy. So I'm very happy with how that turned out. On the topic of shaders, here is my master shader, which almost everything it uses as a base, every material. We've got a system where we can set up the base color or the texture of the tint, and then we can apply the roughness and metallic, and there's some parameters in there that help to quickly make things shinier or dirtier or things like that. The dirt is actually quite cool. It's applied throughout to different areas, and it adds a bit of this dirt color, which you can set on your own, but is default set to this sort of deep brown color. And that adds a lot of additional texture to all sorts of things. You can also set the UV scale and the strength too, so that you can very easily configure how the dirt looks on your object. I use this on the glass surrounding the lower and higher seating areas, the big window in Kallay Tirridor, to give it a lot more of a clear glass appearance rather than just being see-through. For the emission, we actually have some cool stuff in here for time and sine waves, which means we can have glowing emissive things very easily. We just tick a box and it'll work. Here's a whole list of the parameters which I've set up. And then we've got all sorts of configurations in here for just making all sorts of materials. Here in the liquid shader, you can see that there's some cool stuff going on for waterfalls. So the waterfalls in the game use the same liquid shader as just regular water on the ground, as well as the drinks inside of the cups that you can purchase and drink. So how this waterfall thing works is that based on the normal of the current surface, if it's very steep where the water would be falling down, it stretches it out. And then that creates this sort of look right here where it's stretched along the y-axis. And this is really useful for waterfalls because they can use the exact same material as just regular water on the ground, and they'll flow downward quickly. You can also set how strong the waterfall is, how fast, or the height of it, all those kind of things. And so these are really nice for smaller waterfalls, bigger waterfalls, even the liquid inside of cups, which you don't really want to be looking like waterfalls at all. Just makes it a lot easier to work with and makes this easy to use across a variety of use cases. I made this landscape out here using Unity's terrain tool, which I am very much not a fan of, but I decided to use it in this case, seeing as the game is entirely set indoors all over here, and there's not really going to be any need to go over onto the landscape or anything like that. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I mean, I've worked with some other meshes mixed in with it, so specifically what was so useful here was being able to make these big stone pillars. I'll put another image or two on screen of other concept art and renditions of Voin I've done in the past. You'll see that those stone pillars before were meshes, but in this case, some of Unity's terrain tools actually made them really easy to make, just like built straight into the terrain, which was awesome. And then I went in and I added these little grass tops on top, which is just sort of a trademark part of the pillars. You can also really see the water shader from here. So this, I'll go up a bit closer so you can take a look. You can see this is all the same material, and although we do have some UV issues right at the edge there because this starts stretching out at a certain Y threshold, or a normal threshold, it still looks pretty good, I think, and I'm really happy with it all being in the same material so that two aren't needed, one for the waterfall and one for the grounded water. Here you can also see the waves, which move back and forth, and like I said before, that's totally configurable. So if we fly inside and look at some of the fountains, for example, you'll see that, like here, for example, you'll see there is a bit of waving going on. In-game, we also have some little water splash particles down at the bottom here, but those aren't loaded in just because I'm flying around in the scene. This is a good opportunity to show that I've got a sort of nested prefab system here, where we've got the individual piston, then a piston with the grill underneath it, then a pair of two, and then a set of four, which makes it a lot easier to work with things in general. That goes for all sorts of things around here where I've got prefabs, which are just large collections of other prefabs, and then it just makes it a lot easier to detail the level. And here from the outside, you could really see what I mean about that dirt texture, that detailing. You can see it really makes it sort of look like a dirty surface, more of a like real glass that's there that hasn't been cleaned in a while, maybe. Especially from the outside, it looks real dirty, but you would never really be able to see that. I've also got the metallic and roughness, or I'm not sure which, set up here with a texture as well, with these sort of scratches. And at least to me, this makes it look much nicer when you're reflecting the sun. And from the inside, when you look up close at these reflections of the interior here, you can really see the detail in the glass. One thing I should mention while I'm on this topic, I used to have a bunch of reflection probes in here, which if you don't know what those are, they're these sort of box areas you set where the center of that box will be treated as a point to reflect from, and it'll do kind of a capture of the area around, and then reflective surfaces like gold, for example, will reflect to like basically that point, and that saves the computer a lot of effort for reflecting from like every possible angle or whatever. I used to have a bunch of them scattered around, and it looked really weird. There was a lot of like dark spots, and certain places were too reflective, and I was thinking, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I've put so much effort into all these reflection probes. Turns out at the end of the day, what I had to do is just make one like super giant reflection probe. I think it's centered down here or something, and it encompasses the entire bar here. And it just looked like way better than all of my work I put into the individual ones. So pro tip for anybody using Unity, one giant reflection probe is the way to go for areas like this. Actually, maybe that isn't a pro tip. There might be a better way to do it, but that's what has worked for me at least. This project is done in Unity's HDRP, the high definition render pipeline. And this is really nice, especially for the volumetric fog, or maybe just regular fog. So this is especially useful for setting the tone of each space. You'll notice in here it's looking kind of green right now, and that's because this is not the fog that's normally used inside this space. This is the fog that you see when you're up here, and so it's kind of like the green outdoors. But when you're playing the game and you come down here, it's going to have a much thinner kind of blue fog. And each area, like when you come up here, this area has a bit of a denser fog to make it look more airy and open. And out here, there's a cooler blue tint to kind of make it feel regal and very upscale when you first come in the doors from outside. That's made possible by HDRP's fog component over here. So at runtime, I go in and change the color of the fog to different things. You can quickly preview kind of what that looks like. You can see as I spin it around, I can change the color of the fog. And when we're actually inside the game and in these lower areas, it looks something more like when you come in here, ooh, definitely not that strong, but it's, you know, along the lines of something like that. And when you come up here, and then you can very easily change the strength of the fog too with this fog attenuation distance. And now we've got very foggy. Outside, this would be hard to see anything. You can see up here the fog is used to kind of blend the environment back into the background a bit. If I set it back to its normal, there you go. You can see right there, it helps it a lot to kind of fade into the clouds and the atmosphere in the background. I just realized I said I was going to come and show some of the other representations of the system and the planets, but I never actually did when I was playing the game. So up here in the cockpit of our ship, we can see we've got this little display right here where we can see the different planets. And we're in here Sor right now, which if you remember is the southern region. And so right now we're here at Voin, which is circled and highlighted, but we can also see Wunsku, Dorbis, and Guressin. And if we look up in the sky, we'll see those exact same planets, Wunsku, Dorbis, and Guressin. And I've done everything I could to kind of make sure those are always consistent wherever you see them. There's like banners. Where is it? Over here in the banners, you'll see in the here representation here, you'll see this is Voen, this is Guressi, and this is Lunsku and Dorbis. And if we go over to just this icon for the southern region, you'll see it's again Voen, where we are now, Guressi, Lunsku, and Dorbis. And that's also the same for that sculpture we looked at earlier. There's one there, one down here, where it's got those planets in the background. I was really happy with these big statues out here. I put these inside as well in the pools along here, and these were initially inspired by Game of Thrones' Bravos, the city with this giant statue out front. It had this big sense of grandeur and made it feel very, grand, I guess. So that about wraps it up. There's a bunch more details which you can go find out about by playing the game or by checking out the big document for the Hier system, which I'll link down below. Thanks for checking it out. You can go play the game for free right now in the link in the description. Yeah, thank you for watching.